powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
The latest edition of the Inside the Birds podcast dropped this morning. Of course, you would know that if you were already subscribed on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. We've got the latest information from Jeff Mosher and, of course, Adam Caplan, who joins us every Thursday here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, as he is over in the Chicago area still. Correct, Adam?
Correct. Yes, Josh. Good to be with you. Yeah. Just got done Bears Dolphins joint practice here in Lake Forest, Illinois. Yeah, home of the Bears. They are not going away. Almost all NFL, I think all but 4 are staying at their training facility. So, yeah, the Dolphins came in, and it was a dueling battle of 2 young quarterbacks. Justin Fields had a very good day for the Bears, and Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins.
There you go. Of course, Adam will keep you all updated over as well, not just the Inside the Birds podcast, but at Caplan NFL on Twitter for his full trip. But Adam, tonight we have the first Eagles preseason game in 2 years. We haven't seen the Eagles play a preseason game in a couple of years. So before we get into any specific details, let's remind folks of some of the injuries. Obviously, Dillard will not be playing. He is week to week. Update the folks some of the other injuries as well, because there's a lot of young players who we love to see play, but they're not going to.
Yeah, Josh, we talked about this on today's show. That you're right. It's disappointing that where coaches have to evaluate players, not only for the back end, but some guys who they're hoping will play a lot this season, and they need snaps because the Eagles will not hit in training camp. They're not doing that. They're not taking anyone to the ground. You might get an elbow, a forearm, but you're not being taken to the ground, so there's no live tackling. Well, tonight they're going to have live tackling. So for some players, it's for the first time since last season, whether they're a college football player or as a rookie this year or as a veteran. So Dillard's not playing tonight. I would not expect to see the starters play more than a quarter. Whoever starts tonight, Jordan Mailata obviously will be the left tackle. We don't know right now who's going to back up Mailata until Dillard gets back. Kayvon Wallace won't play with his groin strain. Devontae Smith, who's doing fine, I'm told, with his MCL sprain. There's no issue with him being ready for the regular season, but it's an MCL sprain. He's a receiver, so he's not playing. John Hightower, this is not good at competing for the 5th receiver job. He's got a groin injury. Davion Taylor had a quadriceps injury start. It got better. It came back. Now he's got a calf injury. Jacoby Stevens, also the rookie linebacker, who was moving from safety to linebacker. He has now a hamstring injury. He started to come on before the injury. It's too bad.
You know, one of the things that you and Jeff brought up this morning on the podcast is that who is actually going to come in when some of these guys come out on the offensive line? You know, you mentioned Mailata, Johnson. We expect Kelsey to be out there, and I'm assuming it's going to be Herbig and Driscoll at the guard spots. But you guys brought up, you can't have Jalen Hurts out there with Brett Toth out there blocking. Yeah. So it's like, you know, how interested are you in seeing what the Eagles do with their offensive line tonight?
Yeah, Jeff made a fair point. I had not, because the coaches will tell you, and I had not thought about that. Like, you could do this. You could have backups in practice with the ones. That's fine, because the quarterback cannot get touched. But in a live game, in this is what we call live, they're going to get hit. You do not want to have backup linemen in there if you can help it. So, I would expect Jack Driscoll to start playing guard for Brandon Brooks tonight. Brooks started working this week, but I highly doubt he'll be able to play. And say Malo, you could have Nate Herbig, who's played center and guard. So you're okay there. 2 players that you know. And then when you pull the starters out, then you get Matt Pryor in there. Unfortunately, obviously, Landon Dickerson's on active NFI. He won't be ready till sometime, and hopefully he'll be able to be ready to at least be a backup sometime in the first half of the season. But we don't know because he's just rehabbing, so we don't know. And they'll take a look at the low-end guys, but guys like Brett Toth, who you mentioned. So but those guys will be in, and Jalen Hurts will be long gone by that time.
Adam, one of the things that Sirianni said to the media this week is that teams will have a lot of tape on them. They'll have any tape on his offense. They've never seen him calling, coaching plays. So what do you expect from a Nick Sirianni offense tonight? Yeah,
this is the thing, Josh. When you look at their situation, we do know we also saw this at training camp, but we know that because Zach Ertz is still on the team for now, you can't go heavy 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers. And by the other problem is they've got so many guys hurt. I mean, they had to claim Mark and Michelle is now back for at least the third time. He'll have to dress tonight. Hightower's, we know he's not playing. Then we got Devontae Smith. He's not playing. So they're going to have to play a lot of these guys who probably will not be on the roster this season, like Akeem Butler, like Jamon Osborne, Michelle. Adrian Killens, by the way, is now a receiver because of the issues at the position, so he's having to play receiver. Guys like Andre Patton, who Nick Sirianni knows from his days with the Chargers and Colts. So that's the kind of guys you're going to see tonight. Jalen Reagor's got to play tonight. He needs to show me something. And maybe he's the kind of guy who's better in game situations because he's definitely come on lately, but he obviously for 3/4 of camp so far has not gotten the job done. So we need to see more out of him tonight.
One of the things I'm also curious about is, you mentioned a couple of guys there, Jalen Reagor. You get the running backs here. Jordan Howard's look good in training camp, right? Kerryon Johnson not getting as many snaps. Does Gainwell actually run the ball in the game? He's catching a lot of passes in practice. So this running back situation is fascinating because we know Steichen, Sirianni, they both come from offenses that use a lot of different running backs for different things.
Yeah, Josh, I've been to 5 Eagles practices. I mean, I know Gainwell carried the ball when I was there, but I didn't see him do it very much. It was mostly out of the backfield. So I'm looking forward to seeing him probably in the second half. If Sanders plays tonight, Miles Sanders, I don't expect him to play more than a quarter. Jordan Howard, they know who he is. He's in best shape he's been in years. He looks good. Boston Scott's had a very good camp. And then Kerryon Johnson, who did not look very good from my understanding, their OTAs. Training camp is okay, a little better lately. Maybe need to get his legs back. Who knows? And Jason Huntley's a changeup. He's explosive. And if he makes a team, which is highly unlikely, if he makes the team, it'll have to be because he's a special teams returner. But I do believe Gainwell's the guy they'd like to have return kicks this year.
Adam Caplan joining us here, Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast at Caplan NFL on Twitter. The latest edition of the Inside the Podcast dropped this morning. Get your hands on it. Listen to it before the Eagles game tonight so you have all the insight you need as the Eagles kicking off around 7:30 tonight. So make sure you get yourself all updated as we are right here with you as well on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, let's flip over to the defense. Obviously, this is the first year of Jonathan Gannon in this defense. And we know that they played very well in practice. So one of the questions I've had today, Adam, is how much of it is just training camp practice? How much of it is Jonathan Gannon actually implementing a good defensive scheme?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. The only question tonight is, do they use the pre-snap and post-snap disguise? I would say probably not. You want to keep it vanilla because you don't want to give the offenses, stuff on tape because every team will have access to this game tape tonight. You got to be careful doing that. But we know that he's big on disguise. And the other thing that he's done, and I was not up to speed on this when we got it from our sources in February that they were going to run a lot of fronts. I just didn't think they'd have so many different looks in terms of 34. Their base is 43, but you'd have a hard time seeing it in training camp. They're running a lot of multiple fronts. Everything we heard about Kerrigan was true to this point. Unfortunately, he's hurt with the thumb. He's not playing tonight, but I don't think he is. But the fact of the matter is, these guys are going to stand up. Josh Sweat has stood up. Ryan Kerrigan, who stood up most of his career. Seeing Josh Sweat stand up, I had not seen him do that before. So that was Derek Barnett's done that. Those are the kind of things you're going to see from this defense we did not see under Jim Schwartz and Joe Osman, who's now standing up at linebacker. Jannard Avery's at linebacker, but quite frankly, who'd be better in a 34 front. And so there's some elements of the 34 in this defense. So it's fun. I don't know how much Gannon's going to show tonight, but once the regular season starts at Atlanta in week 1, I cannot wait to see what he does.
You mentioned Kerrigan. He probably won't play tonight, we assume, because of the thumb. So that leaves opportunities for some of the younger guys. After Graham, Hargrave, Derek Barnett, Josh Sweat get their playing time, I want to know what Milton Williams is doing. I want to know what Teron Jackson is doing. I want to see what these draft picks do tonight, Adam.
Yeah, Milton Williams is the first guy that I'll be looking for. Now, the problem is because it's on TV, you can't see all that much because they only give you 1 or 2 camera angles. But based on our sources, we'll find out how Milton Williams looked. There's definitely an issue with his arm length that he gets caught in the wash sometimes because the offensive lineman can engage with him, and get him first because Williams' arms aren't long enough. So it's important that they move him around to create areas for him to get to the quarterback. But he's got great energy. He's a very talented kid. We look forward to seeing him. Then there's the battle with Williams for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th D tackle jobs. If they keep 5, they'll keep at least 4. I don't know if they'll keep 5. Marlon Tuipulotu, their 6th-round pick out of USC. We have not heard about him at all. Jeff and I counted. It's between. We've talked about at least had some information on 55 to 60 players of all of our. That's all our training camp shows added together. We have not really talked about Tuipulotu. We have no information on him. So Raekwon Williams, who was not practicing when I was there, so I don't know what the issue was or is. We'll find out more on him. And T.Y. McGill has flashed a little bit. That's number 3 and 4 role. They're up for grabs.
Also, I mentioned Teron Jackson also, Adam, because to me he's a fascinating pick. Him and Patrick Johnson. I know a lot of times later round guys, they have a much lesser chance to make the team, but these are 2 guys who did make an impact in college. And you could ask Zach Wilson how Jackson was terrorizing him in that Coastal Carolina game. So I want to know what these guys look like in an NFL preseason setting and if they maybe have a chance to maybe make a dent in the roster depth.
Yeah, and that's it. That's where the second half will tell the story over the 3 preseason games. And remember, Nick Sirianni is right about this, and this will probably play into how much the starters play in the preseason. Let's not forget the Eagles have 2 sets of joint practices, Monday and Tuesday at home against New England. They play the Patriots Thursday. And then they travel the following week to the Jets for 2 days of practices. Then they play the Jets. So, yeah, and then to close the preseason, which is a week short because there's no 4th preseason game. So you don't have to. Still, you're going to get what coaches call the joint practices or mini preseason games, but they're controlled. They're like controlled scrimmages. And there's rarely tackling in those. So, but they're different, but there's still more work, and then these younger players can get more reps.
Speaking of guys getting more reps, Adam Caplan joining us here at Football at 4, powered by the Inside Birds podcast. How about that secondary, Adam? Zech McPherson. Yeah. We want to see what he looks like. Obviously, the bringing in of Steve Nelson, he likes to be called, allows them not have to force anybody to start on the outside. But now in a preseason game, you get to see what does McPherson have, how much has he absorbed, and how do they use the cornerbacks behind Slay and Nelson.
Yeah, look, McPherson's got a lot of run tonight. He'll play at least a half. Josiah Scott, who they traded for from Jacksonville, who's playing inside and outside. And McPherson can play inside too. Craig James, unfortunately, has an injury, so he's not playing. But Kevon Seymour, I know they like. I had a chance to talk to him on NFL radio a couple months ago. He's had an incredible story, so we'll see if he can push for a roster spot. He's sort of a younger veteran. And then the safeties. No, they're down at safety with Wallace out and McLeod out. Graylin Arnold also was out. I mean, they only will dress 4 safeties tonight. Anthony Harris, Andrew Adams, Marcus Epps. Actually, technically 5 if you want to count Blake Kaunas and Elijah Riley. Blake Kaunas is a hybrid player who could play safety or corner. He was moved to safety some years ago, and he's also a kickoff returner. But the one is McPherson. He's had a top 5 camp of any player, but now we want to see him when there's tackling and see if the Steelers go at him a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see tonight.
Adam, if you could just elaborate on this a little bit for the audience. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the show before you came on about the importance for coaches when it comes to evaluating because, as you said, they're not tackling in practice. So this is an opportunity to have legitimate game tape on these players because anybody can look good in practice and without pads on, without hitting. You know, we know about Mr. Lehigh in years past, right? So, talk about the importance for these coaches to have this game tape in evaluating the roster.
Exactly, because here's the way you do it. You have to see how they wrap, how they tackle, what kind of technique do they use. See their footwork because they're going to be able to get physical with like if you're a cornerback, you can now get physical with the receiver. Because at training camp, you're going to see an elbow, a forearm, but nobody's going to the ground. And that's the problem with this. And because as I said earlier, some of these guys have not done it since last December, it's a problem. And, the hope is that with all these different, they're playing with a lot of backups tonight. You're hopeful that these guys show well. And it's good for their careers because if they're going to wind up being cut, you want to put good tape together. And then, and then here's another thing. one guy I didn't mention on offense. This is a monster game for Tyree Jackson, number 80, who's been one of the stars of camp. Because he's not been able to be hit, he's never been hit as a tight end. He's a former quarterback, so now we have to see how the transition is. You're going to get a real idea over these 3 preseason games where he's at, because he's been really good in training camp.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I just thought of what you just said. We know guys like Logan Thomas have made the transition, but it took him years to make that transition. It didn't happen, one offseason. I think he was with, 3 different NFL teams before he finally landed, right?
Right, and the reason, Logan Thomas, you're right, he should have made the decision early. Now, Tyree Jackson, I talked to him on NFL radio recently. He did make the decision early. I was at that Senior Bowl. Ironically, I was at Logan Thomas' Senior Bowl. They both have great size and are good people, high character guys, but they had such major accuracy issues. I give Tyree Jackson credit. Now he's got to get stronger physically, and he's got to learn how to block. Though what we've heard, he's a willing blocker. Ideally, you like him on your practice squad. You could develop him, because if Zach Ertz, here's the problem: if Ertz is on the football team, Josh, in September, you've got Ertz, Goddard, Richard Rodgers, and probably Jack Stoll. You can't keep 5 tight ends. There's just not any room for them. And Eagles are typically not a team that keeps 4 tight ends. They usually keep 3. And they've had 2 at sometimes during the regular season. So I look forward to seeing Jackson and seeing if he could develop.
And Adam, one more before I let you go. Always appreciate you jumping on here. Inside the Birds podcast dropped this morning. Subscribe, download, get your fix in before the Eagles game tonight. And Adam joins us every Thursday here on 97.3 ESPN at Caplan NFL. How about the other side of the ball? The Steelers have already played a preseason game already. So they've already got a little action in. They got to have an idea of what they're looking for. And the Steelers run a defense that people don't run as much anymore. They run one of those it's almost a pure 3-4 defense. So the Steelers are coming in with something that a lot of teams don't run anymore. And they already have a game under their belt in the preseason.
Right. And it'll be interesting to see how many starters the Steelers use. They had Najee Harris. Roethlisberger didn't play. Their offensive line, it's a bottom 5 offensive line. They got to get things together here. So I'm interested to see what happens with this game tonight. It's fun. Look, it's one of only 3 preseason games. The Eagles' first, if you look at the first 2 games, it'll be interesting to see how much the starters play tonight. Again, I don't think they'll play any more than a quarter, if that. I've always felt there's a little bit of risk playing them too much. But again, I think it is important that they play, because they've not tackled at all. So you want to get them doing that.
At Caplan NFL, at Inside the Birds, both on Twitter. Make sure you check out the podcast like I do each and every day. Make sure, because sometimes they drop the Ask ITBs from the YouTube on the pod as well. Josh,
we got one tomorrow. Glad you brought that up. We're going to drop it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. It is... Yeah, we told people we're going to do this soon, but we decided to knock it out. So it's going to drop at 6 a.m. tomorrow. It's going to be my entire training camp tour, every team that I've seen. The Giants, I was there Monday. They were in shells. It was a short practice, an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm going to hold off on that one. But we covered about 8 or 9 teams. Cowboys as well, and it's fun. Jeff and I did. We went around the league here, so you guys will enjoy it. It'll be on YouTube and also on pod.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Again, you mentioned the YouTube as well. Inside the Birds on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there. Adam, great stuff. Enjoy you guys covering the team as you do each and every week. Enjoy your travels on the training camp tour. We'll catch you next week.
Sounds good, Josh. Thanks.